quick recap. Okay, here we go. Okie doke. Do a quick recap of what we talked about this afternoon. This afternoon, we continued our discussion of the two paths of the Vajrayana, the path of liberation and the path of skillful means. And we spent a little bit of time this afternoon talking about the question of lineage, but let's see if I can, let me pull up the slide presentation, and I'll summarize the brief teaching on deity yoga. I had not made a slide for this, so I decided to make a slide while we were talking. Deity yoga is regards the transformation of body, speech, and mind. From confusion to awakening. If you remember, we were talking about the fact that we have concepts about our body, speech, and mind that are confused. We think of them as being solid and real, but in deity yoga, we imagine ourselves as a Buddha or Bodhisattva, and we imagine ourselves as having a body of light that's empty inside. And if we practice this to its fullest extent, what we come to realize is the unity of appearance and emptiness. Likewise, speech, we cling to our speech as being solid and real. And in the deity practice, we imagine that all sound is the sound of mantra, is like an echo. And when we come to an understanding of that, we realize the unity of sound and emptiness. And then finally, mind. We have there a lot of confusion about our mind. We associate our mind with I guess you could say the confused aspects of thought and so forth and so on. And but we can through the practice of deity yoga come to understand it as awareness. And so from doing this through meditating on our mind as awareness and emptiness, we come to understand the unity of awareness and emptiness. So this is just a couple of notes on what we talked about. This article is available on lamakathy.net in a longer form, and it's based on one of the teachings of Bardo Chokha Rinpoche, and it's a lovely short practice on the benefits of doing deity yoga. We also talked about today, we also talked about the teachings that His Holiness the Dalai Lama gave at KTD in 2006, where he talked about deity yoga as being a form of Mahamudra practice. He said that by meditating on one's body as being made of light and yet being empty within, this was a symbolic meditation on the nature of mind, which is luminosity and emptiness. And the Dalai Lama said at the end of a deity practice, one dissolves oneself as the deity into utter emptiness, enabling one to experience mind as it naturally is for a short period of time. And so we talked about how Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche advised even Mahamudra practitioners to do some form of deity practice so that they can work on their benefit for sentient beings, because deity practices emphasize the accumulation of merit and the purification of negativity. And that in that way, a deity practice can serve the same function as the Nundro practice for a person who is doing Mahamudra. We talked a little bit about the concept of lineage and how the lineage masters pass along the teachings that they have received from their teachers, and they pass it along to their students and so forth. We also took a little side trip to discuss the role of accumulating merit in Mahamudra practice. We talked a little bit about the difference between the word merit and the word virtue. And we discussed cultivating virtuous mind states through the practice of generosity and also through offering. I offered what I called a commercial for the practice, doing some sort of offering practice every day when one is practicing in one's daily life. One can just do a very simple practice, such as was suggested by Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche a number of years ago when he taught a KTD on the Lojong practice, where he suggested that we make an outdoor incense offering daily while imagining that the smoke becomes an offering to those enlightened beings above and a offering of compassion to those who are below, all beings suffering in the six realms. He said you don't even need a text. You just need to dedicate this offering to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and this offering of compassion and goodness to sentient beings. We talked a little bit about how to study about the Kagyu lineage. We reviewed one of the pages on kagyuoffice.org that discusses history of Buddhism in India, Tibet, and specifically the Mahamudra lineage that would expand on the teachings that we talked about today. Let's see. We told a couple of stories. We talked about a couple of stories of Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche when he was talking about the difficulty of having so many teachers and so many practices to do that one is confused. And he said that from his point of view, it's best to choose one lineage, one teacher, and one practice. I'll never forget, he said it's not like the Kagyu lineage is missing something. He said, we've got it all, so you just need to practice it. And so we talked a little bit about that. And then we answered several questions and about deity practice. And we talked about the fact that some folks feel drawn to a particular deity over others. And that Khenpo Rinpoche had said to me that when people come to me saying that they feel a connection with a deity, if it looks like it's something that is not unsteady and unstable and changeable, then he said that I could help them try to obtain teachings on that. So I think that's where we left off. I just wanted to summarize it briefly for the recording. That's not all of the things we talked about, but it's a start. So, now I'd like to talk a little bit about my final topic, which is how to find a teacher and how to work with a teacher. There's a section in Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche's 10-day teaching on pointing out the Dharmakaya, where he talks about the 4 conditions that are necessary for Mahamudra practice. And these 4 conditions are described in the Ninth Karmapa's text on preparing to do the practice of Mahamudra. And these 4 conditions are needed in order to practice well. The first is to have what some lamas call a fully renounced mind. That's the causal condition. If we are still wanting something from samsara, it's going to be very difficult for us to allow ourselves the time and space necessary to practice Mahamudra. And so it's advised to work on the 4 thoughts, the precious human life and impermanence and karma, as well as the defects of samsara, as a way of bringing more renunciation to the mind. Khenpo Rinpoche, in this particular teaching, he said, you have to understand what samsara is so that you gradually lose your taste for it. And so that was the first of the 4 conditions for Mahamudra practice to be successful. The second one is the principal condition. And this principal condition is having and being able to follow a teacher. Now, I'm going to go into detail in a couple of minutes about finding and working with a teacher. It's one thing to have a teacher, and it's another to work with them. And so, if many people have teachers, but they are not able to work with them for one reason or another, and so it's really good to both have and be able to follow a teacher. In Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche's teaching on Guru Yoga, in his Nundro commentary, he says sometimes we get a teacher and we like them a lot, and then he said we lose confidence in them somewhere along the line, and then he said we make the mistake of thinking that we know just as much as they do. And he said, and at that point, he said that they become incapable of really giving us advice or guidance. So he used a funny example. He said it's as though we put glue in the faucet and then tried to get a drink of water out of it. Anyway, the principal condition, which is the second of the 4 conditions for Mahamudra practice, is to have and be able to follow a teacher. Because the teacher, hopefully in good circumstances, has had the nature of their own mind pointed out to them so that they can actually help guide students in the same endeavor, trying to come to an understanding of how to practice Mahamudra meditation well and how to recognize the nature of their mind. And so this is why this is important. Then the third of the 4 conditions is called the focal condition. And this has to do with what we are actually meditating upon. And this, as we were going over the Mahamudra lineage supplication earlier today, we talked about the one line that says, may our meditation be free from intellectualization. And this is what is meant in the discussion of the third condition, which is the focal condition. Khenpo Rinpoche says sometimes people make the mistake of when they're meditating on Mahamudra, that they think and review all of their teachings that they have received and about the view of Mahamudra, and then they try to make their meditation fit the philosophical view they have been studying, rather than allowing themselves to meditate on their mind as it is. They create an idea of what their mind should be like and then try to force their meditation into an intellectual mold. And he said they are focusing on the wrong thing rather than the right thing. So that's why you need to have the focal condition, which is meditating in the proper way on the proper topic, which is mind itself. And then finally, the 4th condition is for many people the trickiest to understand, and that is called the immediate condition. And the immediate condition is this is tricky. It is not wanting results from your meditation, not wanting your meditation to come to a result. In other words, you actually need to be free of any ambition when you allow your mind to come to rest in its own natural awareness. If you have an ambition, like, I want to meditate on the nature of mind for a very long time, or I want my meditation to look like this, or I want it to look like that, or I want it to be this, or I want it to be that. I want. The idea is that you have to sit and meditate on mind as it is, using your instructions. You need to use your instructions, but you need to not pressure yourself or push yourself or have ambition, because this ambition then will cloud your meditation and make it just as conceptual as your everyday thinking. So in this way, if we can amass these 4 conditions and have these 4 conditions, then we will be able to undertake Mahamudra practice that will be successful. So before I go on to talking in detail about finding and working with a teacher, does anybody have questions on these four conditions? I want to make sure. I like to talk about them to people because it reminds us how important the four thoughts are. But if anybody has questions or curiosities, they can ask. Okay. So we'll go on. Oh, okay. Yes, we have a question. Yes.
On the immediate, the final point, the immediate, is that like having no expectation?
That's it.
Like, okay,
Uh-huh.
okay,
Yeah. Because it's like not applying a conceptual framework to what you're doing.
okay,
Because if you apply a conceptual framework to it, it's like the that you're it's all about us when we do that. It's about me
right,
and
okay.
my
Like I'm going to do this to get here, to do this to get here, like that
right.
kind of like it's a recipe or something instead of
Yeah.
being
Yeah. It's
unattached and doing
yeah.
it for its own sake. Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah. And what's so funny about that is that the more we grasp and cling to an idea of how meditation should be. In fact, Rinpoche, in his discussion of this, says you shouldn't even be sitting there with the concept, I am meditating, you know.
okay.
It's kind of like don't conceptualize what you're doing, just do the practice as you're taught. So I thought that was interesting. Got one here with a hand up, and then another one in chat. Let's take the one with her hand up first. Elizabeth?
Could you comment on the difference between the condition of being fed up, that's not quite the right word, with samsara, recognizing the shortcomings of samsara versus having aversion to samsara and being in despair at the state of humanity in the world?
Sure. In fact, this feeds into the question in chat, which is saying, will you please summarize the causal condition? I think that's a good idea because basically you're both asking about the causal condition, which is the first of the four conditions. I tell you, it is very easy to look at let's just start by saying it's very easy to look at the world we're in right now and despair. It's very easy because I think every generation feels that the world is coming to an end. And I think this has been happening since the beginning of time, that every generation says, oh my gosh, my world is coming to an end. And it is possible. It's always possible to happen. But I think that we can look at the situation and use actually that sadness that we feel, because if you think about it, samsara really is an ocean of suffering, and the idea of reflecting on the four thoughts, the precious human life, the impermanence and karma and the defects of samsara. The purpose of meditating on this is to come to the conclusion that Dharma practice is the only thing that makes sense in the face of understanding that the world is going to hell in a handbasket. So even with the despair of that, the only thing that makes any sense at all is the practice of Dharma. And because we may not be able to save the world from itself, we may not be able to do that. But we can definitely practice on our own and do our best to be good citizens in the world. But I think that, but the rest of it is that if we look at the defects of samsara, Dharma is the only thing that makes sense. If we look at karma, action, cause, and result, the fact that we're accumulating karma moment by moment by moment by moment, Dharma is the only thing that makes sense there too. And in the face of impermanence, awakening, which is permanent, where we'll be able to permanently and globally be able to assist sentient beings, that's also amazing. And so finally, the fact that we have this precious life, that even if the world is going to hell in a handbasket, we still have our faculties and we have the capacity to be in love and compassion for ourselves and be in love and compassion and wisdom and be present for others. So that's kind of how I see it, but I may be missing the point of your question. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I'm missing the point.
The word revulsion is often used in the translation, and my question had to do with sort of is there a distinction between recognizing the shortcomings of samsara, feeling the revulsion for samsara, and states of aversion, which on the other hand, is one of the major poisons.
Okay, aversion. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, I wasn't getting the question. And now I understand. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think they hopefully, there's a different feeling to it. There's a different feeling tone to this. Aversion, like hating something, is what I'm thinking. But being weary of it and losing one's taste for it. I think that's kind of good. It's like Kim Rinpoche said, it's like there's nothing there for you anymore. But that's not hatred, isn't it? You're sort of, okay, I've had enough of that. I need to do something different now, as opposed to I hate that. I don't know. It feels different to me. The feeling tone is different too.
All right, thank
If
you.
I try it on for size, if I try the feeling tone on for size. I may have to think on that some more. I may not have a good answer for that. I just feel like hating something is a real different feeling. Yeah, the revulsion means, because Kemper Rinpoche talks about this in that commentary on pointing out the Dharmakaya, he says it's like you've lost your taste for it. And like, okay, that's enough of that. And that feels different to me. So sorry if I'm not quite being clear.
No, thank you. That helps.
I gave it a shot. And then for the person who asked about, oh yeah, somebody else made a comment. I see aversion for samsara not as hate, but like that line in Great Path of Awakening about the sweater that never fit anyway. Well, that's right. Yeah, in Ken MacLeod's commentary, Ken MacLeod's translator's introduction, he says at first, he says, it's difficult for us to employ true intelligence and compassion in all circumstances. Our own interests, our own concern for ourselves constantly cloud and condition our perceptions of and responses to events around us. When our clinging to self is strong, we don't surrender it easily or willingly, and our attempts to use compassion and intelligence are clumsy and cause us regret or guilt. If, however, we understand that ego is a sham and that the self we cling to is in fact nothing, and we become familiar with the habit of letting go of our own interest in a situation, we become more capable of surrendering ego fixation, just as we are able to throw away without regret an old sweater that never fit us anyway. I like that. Okay, that's that. I appreciate you bringing that back. Now, I have to ask the person who asked the question regarding the causal condition. Did I cover that all right, or am I missing something that you wanted to know? Oh, I missed what you said. Okay, very good, no problem. I was talking about the causal condition. It's really losing your taste for samsara. by reviewing the four thoughts that turn the mind. As I was saying yesterday, for some people, the four thoughts that turn the mind, some of them just don't click for us. They don't make sense. And so that's a bit of a problem. So for some people, it will be the precious human birth, knowing that they have a very fortunate opportunity to practice Dharma will be their way into Dharma practice and to abandon samsara. For other people, it will be impermanence. Impermanence will help them to abandon their ambitions in samsara and begin to practice Dharma. You have to get what I call escape velocity from samsara, and part of the way that we do that is by recognizing the defects of it and the impermanence of it. And for some people, it's recognizing that everything they think, do, and say changes them through the truth of karma and action, cause, and result. So hopefully, one of these four thoughts will be able to speak to us and help us to recognize that we need to go beyond samsara. So the causal condition is having renunciation for samsara, and that so that we don't want our practice to give us something in samsara. Let's see. Oh, I looked it up in the dictionary. Aversion is a strong dislike or disinclination, and renounce is a formal rejection of something. Oh, okay. Yeah, like rejecting. Yeah. It's a toughie. It's a toughie because I appreciate you looking that up though. Going back to the person who asked about the causal condition, for Mahamudra to be successful, we have to be able to meditate in such a way that we are not taken away from our meditation by the wanting of something to accomplish something in samsara. I think it comes down to that. How can we practice meditation on the nature of mind when we're busy thinking about how we're going to scheme to make more money or get something we want? And I think that's the reason that it's called the causal condition, because without that, it's very difficult to practice Mahamudra. So hopefully that is helpful. Okay. All right. So then I think I'll go on to the final topic, which is finding and working with a teacher. The teaching that, again, there's an article about this on lamakathy.net, so you can read about it in detail later. But this is based on a teaching that I received from Bharata Rinpoche. He was asked one time, how do you find a teacher? What's the process? And he said, first of all, he said, don't panic. Don't panic. And don't pressure yourself too much to find someone. In fact, that's something that Sita Rinpoche also said. He said, don't be desperate. Which I thought was a really interesting observation. Don't be desperate. He said, take your time. And what Bharata Rinpoche said was that he said, do your practice. Start just by doing your practice. And as you practice meditation and compassion and mantra and all of these types of practices, slowly you will develop a virtuous mind. And as you develop a virtuous mind, your karma will begin to come to fruition. The goodness of this will come to fruition as coming into contact with various teachers. And he said, let the process of choosing a teacher be organic. Let it be organic. And you'll meet many teachers, and maybe you'll ask some of them questions because their teachings are interesting to you. You'll ask them questions, and then you'll practice what they advise you to do. And he said, then these will become your branch teachers, like the branches of a tree. These will become your branch teachers. And then as you continue to study and practice and ask questions, he said you'll discover that there's one or two individual teachers whose advice helps your mind the most. And that helps your mind practice Dharma, helps you understand Dharma, helps you dedicate yourself to Dharma. The advice you get just helps you in your life. And he said those will become your root teachers, like the roots of a tree. The branches are all of the teachers you meet, but the root teachers are those whose advice helps you the most. And that from among those, there may be one teacher whose advice on the nature of mind helps you the very most. And that will be your main root teacher. And I think that's a really good way of describing the process of finding a teacher. And I remember when Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche was asked about this, he said, a good teacher will have three characteristics. Number one, that teacher will be someone you have confidence in, meaning that you have confidence in that they know what they're talking about. So you will have confidence in them. Secondly, you will trust them, because it's one thing to have confidence in someone, but then to entrust your guidance to them, that's a whole nother thing. So it'll be someone you have confidence in, someone you trust, and then lastly, it'll be someone who is available to you. I mean, lots of people would like His Holiness Dalai Lama to be their teacher. You've got that confidence, you've got that trust, but there is an availability issue. There's an availability issue, so you might need to work with that a little bit. Although it is possible to take such great masters as teachers to yourself, you just would not be able to get a one-on-one advice from them. But I really like these two teachings because they emphasize, number one, making contact with teachers, getting advice, following the advice, seeing how it helps you, and then using that advice to further your practice. And that's what I have advised students to do for a long time. That often you'll have to start at your local Dharma center and work with the people there, and then gradually you will come into contact with other teachers as the Dharma center hosts other teachers and has them do programs, and that this is a way of being able to contact and meet teachers. But then there's also the matter of having an opportunity to work with a teacher. And I think that there's a very healthy give and take, because Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche wrote an essay about teachers, and he said at first when you go to your teacher, you're like an injured person going into the emergency room to see a doctor saying, "Fix me." Because you feel a little bit broken, and you go to the teacher seeking emergency help. And then he said that later the teacher becomes more like a friend. But this friend, he said, begins to mind your business, meaning they begin to give you advice about the things you need to know about your own path and the things you need to work on. And then finally, the teacher becomes like a monarch, introducing you to the nature of your mind and the nature of the world. And so I thought that was really a very interesting discussion of the progression. And not all of us will have that kind of opportunity to meet with a special guru or teacher, but we can, as we are now, make use of the teachers we meet and ask questions and have them help us deepen our understanding of Dharma. because here's the thing. As someone said, and this a book will never tell you when you're making a mistake. You can learn your dharma from books, but a book will never tell you when you're making a mistake. Now, that's not 100% true, because books like Great Path of Awakening outline pitfalls that you might fall into as you practice mind training. And the good Mahamudra manuals also describe the pitfalls and mistakes that you might make in your Mahamudra practice. But that aside, if we study the things that we enjoy studying, and we never challenge our ego fixation, then what we will find is that we will find that all of samsara becomes a teacher to us, because it shows us the areas we need to work on. So this is going to happen to us. Khenpo Rinpoche once said that your teacher, if you would go to your teacher and say, "Oh, teacher, show me my faults," and then the teacher would tell you your faults, he said, you might get mad at the teacher, but because you don't want to be shown your faults. But he said, samsara is going to take care of that for you, because when we are unfinished as individuals, situations will keep arising for us again and again and again. And we will be prompted to address our shortcomings and the things about us that need to change. And in fact, if we listen closely to the world we are in, we can actually see situations that arise repeatedly for ourselves. Khenpo Rinpoche gave a lovely little teaching once about getting along with other people. And he said, well, if he said, if you have a problem with one person, it could be that person. But if you have a problem with this person, and you have a problem with this person, and you have a problem with this person, and you have a problem with this person, he said, you got to open your mind to the possibility it could be you. And that maybe you have to make a change. So in this way, even the circumstances of our life can help us move along the Dharma path if we're open to receiving that kind of information. So believe it or not, that's all I wanted to share today, was to talk about the how to find a teacher and how to work with a teacher. Sometimes you'll be able to talk to the teacher by phone, sometimes in person, sometimes by letter, sometimes in Zoom or whatever. But the idea is that we need to think deeply about the instructions we're given, and try them out, and hopefully they will cause our life to change. There's a statement in the 37 actions of a bodhisattva. I'm looking at a translation that is unfortunately now out of print, but I can send to you because I have permission to share it for free. This comes from Khenpo Sotram Jamso's translation group. He said, this is in the 37 practices, it shows us how to practice the Mahayana mind training. And verses 5 and verses 6 are mirrors of each other. 5 is about giving up negative friendships. When friendship with someone causes the 3 poisons to increase, degrades the activities of listening, reflecting, and meditating, and destroys loving kindness and compassion, to give up such a friendship is the practice of a bodhisattva. But then in verse 6, he says, however, when in reliance on someone, your defects wane and your positive qualities grow like the waxing moon. To cherish such a spiritual friend more than your own body is the practice of a bodhisattva. Well, we may not be to that place yet, but I love the idea of the juxtaposition of these two verses. One saying when you relate with someone and they inflame your mental afflictions and they make it harder for you to practice. You should try your best to distance yourself from such a person. Whereas if you meet someone and they cause your defects to wane and your qualities to grow like the waxing moon, that's another way of thinking about the spiritual friend. So if anybody has things that they're curious about or questions about this, I feel welcome to ask. Let's see if we can go to a different view. There we go. Okay, does anybody have question? Oh, I see a hand up. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, thanks.
Hi, this is going back to what you're saying about Khenpo Kata Rinpoche changing his teaching on whether it'd be better to be
Oh,
reborn
yeah.
with your teacher or in Dewa Shen. And I believe you said that he said you be reborn in Dewa Shen where you're liberated, then you could emanate and continue instruction with your root group. So my question is, if you're liberated, what's the purpose of continuing instructions?
Well, it's the first bodhisattva bhumi. You arrive at the first bodhisattva bhumi when you arise in Dewa Chen. But so you got a few more. You got a few more levels to go. So that's the teaching that he shared with us, was that when a being arises in Dewa Chen and they see the Buddha Amitabha and receive those teachings, they arrive at the first bhumi of bodhisattva awakening. But there's farther you can go, and there's also more benefit you can have for beings. So he said from there you could emanate back and be with your teacher and continue your training. So I appreciate you asking about that, because that gave me the chance to clarify that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. In fact, my friend who passed away, I told you his story earlier. That's what Rinpoche said to him too. He said you'll have your first bhumi of bodhisattva awakening right there. It'll happen for you when you arise in Dewa Chen. So yeah. So
okay, thank you.
We remember that address. Other questions? Yes, Leona. Hello.
I really appreciated. Hello, this has been wonderful, and I really appreciated. I wrote down a line you said yesterday: "If Dharma is never far from your mind will never be far from the Dharma." That because this has been a lot of like course correction for me. Like there are things in my practice that have gotten diluted, and I feel reinfused with the intentions and practices as they were given, and I'm surprised to hear things, to recognize where I've sort of drifted, and
We all do.
so right, so yeah, just reassurance that we all do is a dose of that would be helpful.
Oh yeah. It's absolutely true. And I think that that's the function of interchanges like this, is information exchanges like this, is because we can help each other along the path, that one quote from Ram Dass rings true right now, where he said, we're all just walking each other home, which I just think is a lovely way of thinking about our relationships to one another. We're all just walking each other home. And I think that we can all use these. It's why people, even after they've been training and studying for many years, why they still do retreats, why people still take retreat, because we're not finished products yet, and so I appreciate you saying that we're all, it's kind of like we're all doing this, we're all learning things, and I'm happy to hear that it's helpful. So way to go.
Thank you.
And you can always write and ask if you have clarifications and things you need. What I tell people when they write to me is if you don't hear back from me in 2 days, write again, because I'm to the place where I get emails and sometimes things fall to the bottom. And I never ignore an email on purpose. It just happens sometimes. So thank you. I see Amy has a question.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify when you were talking about accumulating merit or a virtuous state of mind, and the reason we want to do that is because it gives us a way to benefit beings, and deity practice is a way to accumulate merit.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, so in what ways, I mean, assuming one has accumulated sufficient merit to benefit beings, how, not so much how does deity practice do it, but in what ways would we benefit beings?
This may not be within your belief system, but Kempo Rinpoche on one occasion said you will be able to appear as that deity in the future to benefit beings who need it, because you've done that action while you were alive in this life. So when we imagine that we are Chenrezi, for example, and that we are radiating love and compassion to all beings, he said that in the future we would be able to appear in that way to benefit beings. And I'm taking that on faith. He said it's possible. And I think that if we look at who we are right now, Kempo Rinpoche said one time, he said, because a person asked him, he had given a Manjushri empowerment, and somebody said, well, that's all well and good, but I think that it's dishonest to visualize yourself as a deity because you're not one. I think it's dishonest. And Rinpoche just had a really quick response for him. He said, well, I can understand why you might think that, because you look in the mirror and you don't see Manjushri. He said, but you've made up who you think you are right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So why couldn't you be Chenrezi? Why couldn't you be Manjushri? And so what happens in a deity practice is that through the light that comes from the body of the enlightened beings are benefited. And we're encouraged to visualize all the beings in the universe in the Chenrezi practice as being transformed into Chenrezi. And I asked a teacher once why our visualizations have to be so big. Mm. And he said, because our wantingness is big, because our clinging and fixation is big. The things we want are a lot. So then we have to match our future benefit for beings to match our wantingness, which I just thought was a brilliant way of talking about how a failing on our part can actually become a quality. You see what I'm saying? By transforming it.
Yeah. Okay, that helps. I think I was getting stuck in the more immediate future, because I'm like, well, how is that going to work? I'm still going to be me,
Well, so I got another one for you. Here's another one. Okay, like, your mileage may vary. You may believe this, you may not. But Kempo Rinpoche, this again was getting close to the end of his life. He was he said something one time. He was saying, and this is just a paraphrase. It's like, I'm a little tired of people saying that the deities don't exist. He says, I'm tired of that. He said, they're not ideas. They're not archetypes. They're real. I'm just telling you, they're real. And when you call them, they actually come. And when you ask them to stay, they actually stay. And he said, so how do you think that holy places become holy places? And how do you think that holy people become holy people? He said, it's because they invite the deities to be present with them over and over and over again.
Oh, wow.
And that touched my heart. I
I
had
think me
never,
too.
I've been doing Dharma for like 20, 30 years, and I had never thought about that. It never occurred to me, not once. And it's like, because I just did the stages of the practice because they're described and everything. But when he said it with that kind of immediacy, it was like, dang, that's right.
Yeah, that gave me chills.
I
Okay.
know, isn't
All
it?
right. Okay,
Woo,
that helps a
woo.
lot. Thank
Uh,
you.
in that, I'm willing to believe that one, because really think about it. Because, you go to a place where some terrible stuff is supposed to have happened in history and it feels weird. Or you go to the cave of a great yogi, and it might make you feel a little uncomfortable, but it's also really cool.
Well,
So,
yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I can recall going, the annual trek to India for the annual Mahamudra teaching. And you get there and it's so different from the US. It's like, oh my God. And then by the end of the 3 weeks, it's like you don't want to leave because it's this special,
Hmm.
it's not like you're having fun. You're going to teachings and it's still a very kind of rustic situation, but you don't really want to leave. So I absolutely
Yeah.
agree with what you're saying because I experienced it over
Yeah.
and over. Yeah.
I believe you're talking about the
Yeah.
Mahamudra that was given by His Eminence Taisij Rinpoche at Sherbling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Sherbling is one of my happy places on earth. I didn't want to leave either. So I
A
get
challenge to get there, but
very hard to get there. That last little trek up that one lane road. Anyway, but yeah, but
yeah. Yeah.
it's one,
So yeah.
it's one of my
Um,
happy places.
thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, and that's something that it's important for us to recognize that such places exist for us, and that we, it's really hard to believe this, but one of the things that Kempo Karthon Rinpoche said to us when we were in 3-year retreat, he said, we talk about the mandala of the deities and so forth. And, you see the pictures and the diagrams of pure realms and things. And he said, but the real meaning of the word mandala is center and surrounding. Center and surrounding. And he said, each of you has a mandala right now. The people the people who are part of your world. And as you uncover your Buddha nature, you will be gradually purifying this mandala, and it's like in seeing it differently, basically, is seeing it in a different way, and it's like, oh my, sign me up for that assignment.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I'm so glad that we're doing Zoom because it really doesn't work out for me to be near a practice center. And
yeah,
these kinds of stories and anecdotes and even what other people share with their own practices and experiences, it's so essential. It helps. I don't know about other people. I need it, I mean, and when I did the Mahamudra series, I went for, I mean, it was a 5-day, 6-day teaching, and that held me for the rest of the year because
mm-hmm,
I'm living in the same situation, but
mm-hmm,
now I don't have Taisi Rinpoche's presence and being in his mandala for 3 weeks, whatever. And
yeah.
so this kind of Zoom experience really, I really try to connect with it as much as possible. And this has been an excellent teaching. So thank
Well,
you.
I'm really happy that you joined us, because yeah, you're everybody who comes to these, they bring their sincerity, they bring their goodness, they bring their sincerity to it. They want to learn, they want to practice, and so they just bring themselves and their sincerity to this space that we're in. And they bring that and they give that, and we feel it. We feel the goodness of that. And I really appreciate you for bringing that, with you today. And being able to refresh your presence in front of a great master like that. You can, I think, do that at any point, just by kind of recalling it and making a prayer to
Well, I,
him.
I have I hate to interrupt, but I've been thinking of him quite a lot and reflecting on I would like to go back and see him. And now he's doing a teaching later this month on the two truths, the relative and absolute. So I thought, well,
Yep. There you go. Ask and you shall receive. Oh, that's a different
yeah,
religion. Sorry.
it's all the same.
Yeah,
But it was, you know, you're right. If you put it out there, and I honestly have been thinking a lot more about him than in prior years. So yeah, it's just a good refresher that there is something besides our ordinary mind.
yeah, that's right. I get it. I'll call it the ordinary mundane confusion, right?
Yeah.
Samsara as usual.
Right, right.
Well, thank you. I see Julie. Hey, Julie.
Hello. Thank you again. This weekend's been amazing. Thank you for Mama Kathy, all of everything, and everybody's asking great questions.
I
And
know, isn't it amazing? It's really
yeah,
great.
the answers. What piqued my interest was the question again about Dewa Shen and reaching the first level of
Yeah.
booming of bodhisattvahood. I'm wondering if there are other points on the map past the first level to be aware of. And don't know
Funny
if
you should ask. That's also a question. That's also a question that appeared in the chat. Okay, so I'm getting to the part of the afternoon where I'm getting a little punchy, and my gosh, this is being a webcast on YouTube. Okay, anyhow, if we look at, you can either look at the 10 bodhisattva levels are explained in Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche's book Dharma Paths. But they're also explained in Jewel Ornament of Liberation, the Precious Ornament. Okay. But if those books are a little hard to understand, Trungpa Rinpoche also gives a commentary on the Jewel Ornament that's quite good, and it will help because I find reading this a little hard for me. Reading the Gampopa is a little hard, but reading Trungpa Rinpoche's explanation of Gampopa helps a lot. And the questioner in the chat said, yes, full Buddhahood is attained after the 10th Bodhisattva level. Although in the Tantras it says there are 13. I don't even want to get into that because I don't understand it well enough. There are 10 bodhisattva levels in the sutras, and in the tantras 13 are taught. So whether it's 10 or 13, Khenpo Rinpoche one time said there is very little material difference between a 10th level bodhisattva and a fully awakened Buddha. Very, very little difference. So hopefully that did that answer the other questioner's question? Okay, he's got him a thumbs up. All right. Columbus KTC represent. You guys are great. And someone asked, did that finish your question, Julie, by the way? And did that finish your question, Helder? Okay, great. All right. So I see that Ellie asked a question. Do we need the lung before practicing Chenrezig and Amitabha? And here's what Khenpo Rinpoche said. He did say to us, and Trungpa Rinpoche also said this, that Chenrezig practice is so helpful and so useful that he said he felt it could be done without a reading transmission. And so he said Chenrezig, and he said that also about the medicine Buddha practice, that medicine Buddha and Chenrezig could be done without a reading transmission. Of course, it is best to get one. And there are lamas living, there are KTD lamas living in just about every part of the country who might be capable of giving these. And there are some lamas who are giving reading transmissions via Zoom now. So you can check with the folks you know and see if you can get that. But stay in touch. There may be one given nearby where you live, but if not, we might be able to arrange something for you to be a clearinghouse for that info for you. Okay. So do you think we should meditate before we close today? What do you think? I want to make sure, first of all, that there aren't any more questions. Someone mentioned Taisitupa teaching, and I'm not finding it. Oh, okay. Where it is, the person asking about the Situ Rinpoche teaching, I don't know that it has the newsletter gone out, the KTD newsletter. It was announced in the KTD Monastery newsletter, same newsletter that this teaching
Yeah,
is put in.
yeah.
And
It's called The Two Truths, and it's on the main
okay.
meets the New York, upstate New York.
Okay, so here's
Oh.
what I'm going to suggest. If we get on the kagyu.org website, go to calendar, and it should be on there because I think the registration has opened, and if it hasn't opened, it will open this week because I just did the editing of the newsletter for that, and so I think it's coming out soon. And it's going to be Zoom teaching, so I'm looking forward to it too. Let's see. Oh, I'm so happy that people had a good time this weekend. We didn't do as much meditation as I was kind of wanting to, but it's okay. Um, um, Somebody asked about donations to me. Oh, you're sweet. That's very kind. I will receive a donation from KTD for giving this teaching, but I do have a medical fund that I have on my online my website, so you can go there and go to my website and check that out. And so yeah, okay. Let's see. Okay, yes, a question. Yes, Amy.
Oh, I was just gonna let people know, I already did register for it, and it's the weekend of January 27th and 28th. So it's a 2-day session.
Okay, this is the Situ Rinpoche Two Truths program.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I'll tell you what, we are living in amazing times. Okay. Let's before we dedicate our merit, let's just sit for a minute. I'm beginning to realize how much work I have to do when we're done. I have to give you all my book recommendations. I didn't even get a chance to mention this one. This one is Chenrezig, for the Benefit of All Beings by Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche. It's Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche's commentary on the 15th Karmapa's commentary. I just remembered the commentary is embedded in here. So even though the one translated by Tyler Dewar is out of print, you can read this book and get the same information. So anyway, again, book list. I will put that on there for you. So let's take a few minutes to sit quietly and to allow ourselves to rest our mind for a bit after all of this teaching and discussion. So placing our body in the posture of meditation, working with the legs, the seat, the back, the shoulders, hands and arms, the chin, the gaze, and the tip of the tongue. Allowing the body to come to rest, we form the motivation that we will practice for the benefit of ourselves and all sentient beings. And so we'll just sit for maybe somewhere between 2 and 5 minutes. Okay. That's a short period of meditation. It's been great spending time with you this weekend, and I'm really happy that we've had this opportunity to talk about the Dharma path and how our teacher, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, used to guide students. And so I'm really happy that we've had this opportunity to discuss that. And again, on the at some point I'll get everything up on the class page. It may take a while because I'm not quite sure how to do that, but I'm going to do my best to get all the book list and some of the links to the articles and descriptions and so forth. So you'll see quite a bit on the class page in the next day or two. So if you have any trouble accessing it, you can be in contact with me or the office at KTD. Okay, so now we get to pull together all this goodness and dedicate the merit. So let's pull all of the merit that we have accumulated together and think that we offer it all and dedicate it all for the liberation from samsara of all sentient beings and the freedom from suffering of all beings. So here we go. 哦，叫昆宁切让苏卡尔玛帕，叫昆吹雷奇杜卡尔玛帕，叫昆顿索万库尔卡尔玛帕。or gentro tu trile shapten so. Sunam dihitam che zipani, tomne ne pedranam pam chene, ke ganachi palam drupahi, si pe sole troan yudrosho. Jampal pa wo ji tar ken padang, kuntu zampo te ante shinte, de da kun gi che su da lo ching, ge wa di da tam che rap tu ngo. Sanjay kusum ne pejin la dang, chuni min den pejin la dang, gendun mi che dun pejin la ki, jitar ngo wa me lam drupar shon. Palden lam he sha peten padang, kaya yon la de ki chong wadang, da jen malu so sa dri jane, nyurdu sanje sa la ku par sho. Du ji le jiao jiao wei trin le pa, karma pa ten ten pe nim po di, cho tar kun chap chap chin jun mi che, ta para pel pel wei tara shi sho. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Special thanks to Tashi, our Zoom host. Really appreciate your help today. And thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
Be well. It's really great to see you all. Thank you again. Really lovely. So take good care. Om mani padme hung.
Money Padme Hum. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, bye, folks.
Oh, money, pay me.
Thank you, guys. Oh, money, pay me.